Will we ever see Conor McGregor fight for a title again? Probably not. But before we get into that, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe as we have brand new videos every single week. So, are Conor McGregor's title aspirations over? At this rate, it's not even clear if he's going to fight again. But two people who do want to fight him are Leon Edwards and Islam Makhachev. Mark, why do you think Leon and Islam have been calling out Conor McGregor?
Well, Leon wants it for the money, surely, and to actually get a big name attached to his to be the headliner of an event because he's not the most exciting fighter. He's not the most charismatic, is he? But fighting a guy like Conor McGregor, you are sharing that headline spot. I think it's purely about the money, the stature, and the fame.
Yeah.
Islam, I think that's much more of a personal feud with Conor. What do you think? Do you think there's any sort of alignment there, or do you think it's purely just for money reasons?
Well, it's tricky, isn't it? With Leon, definitely, I agree. That's for money without a shadow of a doubt because, he's a champion now, so he'll get pay-per-view points. Imagine the pay-per-view points on a Conor McGregor card because, sure, pay-per-views have dipped drastically now with all the streaming servers and stuff like that, but Conor still well does over 1 million pay-per-views. So if you're Leon Edwards, this is going to bring you a lot of money. So you can see why he wants to fight someone like Conor. And with Islam, it's really tricky. It does feel like there is some kind of personal vendetta, right? It feels as though there's a lot of hatred between Camp McGregor and Camp Khabib. That is definitely there. And like even Islam and Khabib's coach was saying, yeah, he wants to see Conor versus Islam because he can get to see Islam batter Conor, and so it really does feel like that sort of tension is there, right?
I think that's the absolute intent behind it. It's going to be the final nail in Conor McGregor's career against, Camp Khabib, like you say.
Mm.
And I think that's probably his only chance at getting a title shot at lightweight because of who Islam Makhachev is and the
Yeah,
history behind him. It's
definitely.
not because he's earned it, because I think even the biggest Conor meat rider would admit that he doesn't deserve a title shot. Does he, Dwayne? Does
I'll
he?
I'll think about it. I'll think about
Yeah, you'll
it.
you'll come round when Michael Chandler flatlines him.
Don't even joke about that. But with Islam, yeah, it does feel as though it is more about rivalry than money. But now with Khabib's tax bill, maybe Islam's going to do this, get him a bit of money so we can pay that.
That's purely the only reason.
Taxes are for legacy only, yeah, they're not about the money. But do you think, though, that if Connor does get through Michael Chandler, do you think the UFC will give him a title shot? Or do you think it's just too outlandish? Like, would they even dare do it?
It's a tough one, is that because does he deserve it? Nope, absolutely not. You look at his, the past few years, but because of who he is, and depends on what fashion that the fight goes with Michael Chandler. If he can finish him in devastating fashion, they probably are just going to bump him up and absolutely skip the queue, get yourself in for a title shot because it is big turnover. Whether he
Yeah.
deserves it or not, it's still going to draw a lot of fans in. And against Islam, let's face it, Dwayne, he's got a much better shot against Islam than he did have with Khabib. I think so, anyway.
Definitely. Well, that brings me on to my next point. Do you think Connor can even hang with the elites at this level now in his career?
Well, it definitely can with Islam, but that isn't necessarily me blowing smoke up Connor's ass. That's me tipping credit to the rest of the top of the lightweight division as well, because every single one of them can. You look at Dustin gave Islam some problems,
Yeah.
Oliveira, not really. But like a few people, even Volkanovski gave Islam a lot of issues.
Maybe not in the second fight, but in the
No,
first
no, no, but we don't talk about that. That's just erased from my memory. Um,
one.
but I absolutely, Conor can definitely stand with Islam if the fight goes that way. We've seen, you even said straight after 3-2, there's a couple of, cracks starting to show in Islam's game against a high level fighter in Dustin Poirier. So imagine what Conor McGregor can do. He said before in a previous interview, precision beats power. And imagine he just needs that one left hand. Well, we'll see. We'll see if the
Yeah.
power's still there. We'll see if we've got to get
Well,
through this Michael Chandler fight first.
definitely. That's the big problem, isn't it? There's a lot of ifs about Connor. Can
Yeah.
Connor return to a level close to what he was? Because you cannot come back from snapping your leg and be the same person you once before. It's just not possible. So he is going to be worse. and you only hit your peak once, right? Once you're at top of that mountain, it's all downhill from there. I don't see
Unless you're
you
Jose
getting
Aldo, the man had two primes. It was strange.
but I think if anyone's gonna do it, if someone's gonna pull off something magical, it is Conor, right? He's just got that. There's just something about him, isn't there? You know, it just takes that one crack and it's all over. And if it's gonna happen, Conor could do it. But I very much doubt it. I think he'll just get absolutely mauled. It might be like when Islam fought Dan Hook. It might be over within, within a minute.
It could well be, and that's the harsh reality that I think a lot of fans could have to swallow at one stage or another with anyone's favorite fighter is that they are just human.
Yeah.
That's it. I've never had again, I won't go down this route too much, but I've never had the mystique with Conor. All that really is just another fighter. He's really good. He was really good. He's rise. You can't argue that. But he is just a fighter. And that's exactly what Dustin Poirier said in the second time they met. When he said the first time I was a bit starstruck, but the second time, this is just a man in front of me. And he ended up getting a TKO victory. And I think that's going to be the harsh reality. No matter how big a global superstar he is, no matter how many bad remakes in movies that he stars in, he's human and he can get touched. And I think Islam would more than likely batter him.
Yeah, exactly. But like you were saying, that goes the opposite way, doesn't it? Islam's only human as well. You know, if a little guy like Alexander Volkanovski is giving him trouble on the feet, now, fully juiced up Conor McGregor of a night full of cocaine and not feeling any pain at all, he could get Islam out there.
Absolutely. And look at the mess at what Dustin Poirier did to Islam's face as well.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
one elbow, he is human, I mean, like, he does look like the Terminator sometimes in with the way he fights, but and on a crazy fight win streak, but one shot, that's all it takes. That's what makes the sport so exciting, right?
Yeah, and I find that's what's so interesting about Islam. I think that's how good Islam Makhachev is, right? He didn't completely dominate one of the best lightweights of all time. And like, well, is he as good as we think he is? Do you know what I mean? That's how it shows how good he actually is. Because then the minute that he does seem to struggle at all, people jump on it like, oh, there's this weakness here, there's this weakness here. If any other fighter had that fight with Dustin, we're like, what a what a warrior, what a guy. And immediately we're like, right, what's the issues with Islam here? But
Well, everyone's looking for the cracks, aren't they?
yeah,
Just sorry, very quickly, just
no,
that's
no.
what everyone's looking for. They're all looking for that, like they're looking for that Death Star entrance. Just this is the way that you destroy it. Pardon the pun there, but essentially, like what did it was like even Israel Adesanya? Oh, we got given a blueprint when he fought Jan Blachowicz, and you think,
Yeah.
well, this was the unbeaten fighter. It's crazy how we all jump on an absolute megastar just to tackle him down a few pegs.
Yeah. Well, look at Luke Rockhold. That was exactly what happened with him, didn't it? Like he was, such a high level fighter, and Bisping showed, right, this is how you get Rockhold out of there. I think it was like every fight after that, he got knocked out exactly the same way. People saw the recipe and went, well, I'm going to do that, right?
That's what you need. You need to just be partying, drinking, whatever, and then 2 weeks' notice, take a fight, and just throw a looping left hand. That's all you need to do. It's not that
All
hard. I
good.
don't know why every fighter don't do that.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Connor again here, Matt, before we go off too much about Luke Rockhold. So, with this fight against Chandler, he is going to be fighting at 170. So, do you think this is going to be a permanent move for Connor at 170? And if he does stay at 170, do you think he'll get a title shot against Leon Edwards?
I think if he's back for good, and depending on what his performance is like, I like to see him stay at 170.
Mm.
He's only ever won one fight at lightweight. So let's give welterweight a go. This is where you've been weight wise for a good few years now, out of fight camp, granted. But let's just see what you can do. And it opens up the division for so many more matchups because yeah, you don't want to see Conor and Dustin 4. I don't really care about the asterisk that's on that trilogy. Leave it now. Come on, we've seen it. But I think at welterweight with against Leon Edwards, that could well happen. But don't forget, you've got Islam Makhachev chomping at the bit for that second belt. Does he
Yeah.
deserve it? Probably not. But late in the later half of this year, I believe that we'll get all these questions answered, and we'll see who is going to try to dethrone Leon Edwards. And God knows, I hope someone exciting does. Then we can at least
Well,
open up the welterweight division again.
at this rate, we'll have Bilal versus Islam at the end of the year for the welterweight strap, and it'll be heartbreaking. It'll just be
Yeah, I could see the tone. I could hear the tone in your voice then. Just for God's sake.
That is a pay-per-view to miss.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with the thought of Conor moving up to 170 permanently because the thing is, when he has fought at 170, he's mostly fought other lightweights, just not cutting weight, right? Like, don't forget, Nate was fighting at 155, sometimes 170. Same with Cowboy. Now the same with Chandler. And it's like, well, is he going to be able to physically match up with other 170 pounders? Like, if he went up against someone like Shavkat Rakhmonov, he's done for, right? Do you know what I mean? The physical strength of Shavkat will just rag him around everywhere. Though Wonderboy was clipping him a couple of times, and so maybe you never
There
know.
is that, but there's a lot. This is the thing with whenever we bring up Conor McGregor now, there's more questions than answers. So it's
Definitely.
it's such a tough conversation to have because we haven't seen what he's capable of right now. I honestly think that we'll see how he copes at 170. I don't believe it's going to be an issue for Michael Chandler uh, at 170. I really don't, because we're going to get the same explosive one-round fighter in Michael Chandler, I believe. And then we're going to get him covered in blood, pointing at the floor, just, I don't know, looking around, just doing his Ric Flair woos while he gets clipped round the head, losing a few more brain cells, I think. I don't think it's going to be an issue for him, but I wonder how the cardio is going to be.
Yeah,
That's the only issue.
definitely. You're right. It is always so much what if with Connor, isn't it? Because we really, really don't know. He's coming off that big injury and a long layout. But Mike, sort of talking about Connor fighting for these titles, for me, it feels somewhat of a pipe dream to say he can fight for the actual gold, at 155 or at 170. But a title I think he can actually fight for, and I genuinely think this will happen, is the BMF belt with Max Holloway. I think that it's almost created a new vision, new division, should I say, not a vision, of these sort of not older stars, but these veterans like Max Holloway, like Justin Gage, Justin Poirier. You could put Volk in there as well, Connor, Chandler. It's just these tough, fun fights, and it feels like that opens up this whole new division. Do you think we could see Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt?
That's one fight that I'm all aboard for. I'm
Yeah,
all in, and I'd love to see it. They have met once before, but let's not pretend that it was like a mega fight back then. They were both up and coming. They were both young. It's like Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan. Yeah, we got it, but it were on Nitro or something like that. It wasn't on the grand stage. This would
yeah,
be for the BMF. I'd love to see them guys run this back when them both established fighters.
yeah.
And that could go either way. That's such a fun fight as well. I'd love to see that. In fact, let's forget Michael Chandler and just put Conor McGregor against Max Holloway. After the performance that he gave at UFC 300, how can you deny him anyone?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's such a fun fight, that isn't it? It's something that Connor can go for relatively well. It's not a safe fight, not at all, but it's not as dangerous as moving up and fighting a champion like Leon Edwards or Islam Makhachev. This is a fight that he could win. It could be competitive. It's a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people would want to see this, and I can see the UFC doing it quite easily. But the same with Islam and Leon. I'm just not sure Connor can stand with someone as active as Max. Like, Max is in and out of this octagon all the time. He's constantly fighting, and he's just looking better and better and better. I was a bit worried for him when he had those string of losses against Volkanovski. I kind of thought, is he washed now? And then he put that performance on against Justin Gage. Oh my God. I'd put him up against John Jones and I think he'd beat him.
But that's the thing, though. Like, don't forget the other fights in between that as well. There was, Korean Zombie, Arnold Allen, Max Holloway is there to stay. And I think as fans, we're so ready to close the door on active fighters. As soon as they've got a couple of losses in the way, like, perfect example, look at Dominic Reyes. That's probably more called for as well. But, he's pulled it back with a knockout win. But we're so ready to be like, no, he's done. He's done. Get him out of there. But Max Holloway, he's there to stay. He's the stain that you can't get rid of at the back of the pan, and he's permanently in that division. And will he touch gold again? Who knows? Probably. He's only 32, is Max. You
Yeah.
feel like he's been around for decades, but he's still very much in his prime. And I think we've got a hell of a lot more to see with Max Holloway. Number one priority being BMF title defense.
Yeah. And that'd be great. And a defense with this division will actually make people care about it a bit more, I think. Like,
Mhm.
seeing it actually be active, I think will bring a lot more validity to it, right? People will sort of value that belt more. But it's tricky with Conor, isn't it? Because if they don't give him a title shot, if they don't give him Islam, if they don't give him Leon, if they don't give him Max, and he beats Michael Chandler, who would he fight next, though, right?
There's only a there's names that you could pluck out your ass,
Yeah.
like Justin Gaethje or someone like that, because that would sell as well. Conor McGregor, we've said before, he could be fighting a broom in a telephone box and it'd still sell. But you think, well, what's the point in these fights?
Yeah.
Because Gaethje's even said, he hasn't really got too long left, so you might as well take these fights. So it is, I suppose, it's just for fun. You don't have to be fighting for gold or even for legacy if it's
Yeah.
just for fun fights to keep the division going. But you go, well, with the name and the stature and the presence of what he is, it's got to mean something, right? Just a little bit of something, really.
Definitely. And that's the problem, isn't it, with that sort of lightweight division, is these guys are such big names. It's the real premier division of the UFC, isn't it? So, if you make Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor as prize fighters, they've got the prize already. They're all multimillionaires. They're not fighting for money anymore. They're fighting for legacy and gold and accolades. They're not fighting just for the sake of fighting anymore. They don't need to do it. So it is tricky, isn't it? If Conor's not fighting for something important, I'm not sure we're going to see him in there, unless these rumors of a 165 division are true, and, make him a whole new division. But, it seems unlikely that we'll ever really see Conor fight for a belt again. And at this rate, we may never see him fight again. But thank you for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help us out.